Hello, writers. I am so excited to start our writing unit and to figure out who we are as writers and what does it mean to be a writer. Writing is one of the biggest forms of communication in the world. People are constantly writing to each other and are using writing as a form of communication. And so I know personally for me, I like to use writing as a form of communication. It's probably my preferred form of communication because I'm able to think about what I want to say before I actually have to say it. And so it's just another way to make sure that your voice is being heard. And writing is just so important. It's the reason why we have so many books in the world. It's the reason why we're able to easily communicate with each other. And it's just a really great form of communication because it takes so many different shapes. And there's so many different reasons to write and so many different styles of writing, so many different forms of writing. And so we're going to dig a little bit into that. Today, our focus questions, as you can see, is why do we write? And so we are going to look at different examples of daily writing, not so much about writing in class or writing for school or writing for a living. We're not going to talk about what does it mean to be an author today, but as a human being, why do we write? When do we write? And how do we use that form of communication? So here is our first one. The first one that we have is texting. So why do you think we use texting? I think we use texting so that we can easily communicate with one another. Texting has created its own almost language. So people like to use lots of different acronyms like BRB for be right back. Or instead of the word you, like YOU, we just use the letter U. So texting is something that has evolved and has created its own form of communication, its own rules of communicating. And so this is something that we use, I believe, to be a little bit more friendly. So you're going to text your family or you're going to text your friends. So texting is definitely a friendly form of communication, not so much a professional form of communication. Now we have journaling. What do you think are the benefits of journaling? Journaling for me has always been a great way to reflect on either how my day is going or a moment in time. I also really like to journal when I really want to remember something. So Miss Ortiz is really bad about taking pictures in the moment, but sometimes I like to come back home and I'll write it down in my journal so that I never forget that moment or that memory. I know some people also like to journal so that they can express their feelings, or if they're feeling upset, or even sometimes if they're feeling happy, they just want to get all of those emotions out. So for me, I feel like journaling is a lot more about your emotions and just kind of working through your emotions or just remembering and recording things that have happened. Then we have post-it notes. How do you use post-it notes? Post-it notes are constantly used in the classroom. I think post-it notes are fun because they're small, so you can only put a little bit of information on it. I use post-it notes a lot as reminders. So if there's something that I need to do, I'll write it down on a post-it note so I don't forget. So that's one way I use post-it notes. To-do list. How are they helpful? To-do lists are so helpful. You're able to keep track of all the things that you have to do. I really like being able to cross it off because then I feel so accomplished. So to-do lists are great to get all of that information out. So I think another one of the great things about writing is that it takes everything that's in your head and puts it down on paper. So I know for me, if I have a lot of things going on, if I just sit down and quickly write down a post-it note, I won't forget the things that I do have to do. So sometimes I do post a to-do list on post-it notes. So it's kind of combining the two. Then we have grocery lists. Now, what are the benefits, or why is writing grocery lists beneficial? This is something that you may have no idea about. But personally, Ms. Ortiz doesn't write grocery lists, but it would probably be helpful, one, for a couple of reasons. One, you wouldn't forget anything that you need. So if you're making Now, this is when I sometimes use a grocery list if I'm making something special or like for big holidays like Thanksgiving or a cookout or maybe Christmas. That is when I would write a grocery list because those are meals that you don't use every single day, so you need specific things. Like for everyday stuff, I don't use a grocery list, but they might be helpful because then you would stick to the things that you just need. Because it's really easy to just walk up and down the grocery store and just take all the things that you see, even though you may not need them. So grocery lists will probably help you stay on task. Um, does anybody in your family use grocery lists? And so those are some of the different ways that I thought people use writing in their everyday lives. So your assignment is going to be to go back to Google Classroom and now you're going to come up with your own ways that you use writing in your everyday life. You can think about at home, how do you use writing? In school, how do you use writing? Maybe in other parts of your life that you use writing. You can use some of the examples from here, but I do want you to try to think of at least one different way that you use writing.